morning and welcome to GrainTV. Today is April 9th, 2012. I'm Logan Burgess. To my right is Cody Bills. Cody, outside markets look like they're selling off here in the early going. We see U.S. equities down. Crude oil is down about $2 a barrel here. What's kind of pushing these outside markets here this morning?
One thing that came out across the news wires is that China's inflation, their annual inflation, was raised unexpectedly to 3.6%. That kind of limits their options and then makes it unlikely that they'll be able to ease monetary policy as soon as they'd like. And when you can't ease monetary policy, it means that the money supply will be constricted a little bit longer. Therefore, there's not as much money to buy U.S. commodities. That's weighing on prices this morning, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, any weakness out of the Chinese economy will be negative for U.S. grain prices. They are huge consumers of U.S. grain. On April 30th or 13th, excuse me, we'll be seeing first quarter GDP figures come out from China. So that's something to keep an eye on here. In the early going here, it looks like in Chicago the grains are selling lower. We see corn down 8 1/4, soybeans down 6. Right now, Chicago wheat, the only grain in the black here, up 1. Kansas City wheat kind of unchanged here in the early going.
Yeah, I think let's just take a quick look at the May contract here for corn. We touched on this a little bit on Friday, and we just said, you know, they kind of ran out of steam, and there's a good chance we could be drifting lower. Well, I think there's a good chance you could fill this gap here after the report around 6:45 area. You come back to that, but of course the USDA report, the WASDE report tomorrow, will really define the trade for the remainder of the week. You know, today we may drift a little bit lower, but after that report comes out, it should really be driven by the fundamentals. Logan, what are we seeing in terms of corn's fundamentals? What do you expect to see? Will that move us higher?
Yeah, you know, I think there really is a possibility here to move higher on those old crop contracts. Ending stocks could provide some support to the corn market here tomorrow. We saw 801 million bushels of corn reported in the ending stocks figures in the March USDA WASDE report. One thing to note as it relates to that is in the quarterly grain stocks report we saw come out on March 30th, the quarterly grain stocks for corn came in lower than expected. That kind of sets the floor to a possible downgrade in the ending stocks number we're going to see come out tomorrow. You know, there's some private analysts looking for that corn figure to come in around 700 million bushels for ending stocks. That would be supportive of this corn market here.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're seeing for the corn market. I know you looked into the soybean market specifically as it relates to soybean exports. What are we kind of seeing there? How's that shaping up?
Yeah, I think export sales will be one of the big things that drives the ending stocks for soybeans.
Yeah.
Take a look here. We're about 8% left unsold in terms of meeting the USDA's forecast. We're 92% sold, which means that on average, for the remaining 22 weeks in this marketing year, we're going to have to come in at 133,000 metric tons of sales, of soybean sales each week. I think that's relatively doable. Take a look at where we are. The blue here is actual recorded sales throughout the marketing year. The yellow is what we expected based on the seasonality, right, and based on what we typically see in the last 5 years. And as you can see here, you know, the later part of the marketing year, you lose a lot of the ability to make sales. Now, I think the reason why we're going to outperform here, and the reason why the USDA could raise their sales forecast is because of the production down in South America. It continues to be downgraded, and I think that those sales there are going to be pushed more and more onto our books. I would expect to see us to actually come in and do a lot better here, continue to do better, and outperform in the second half of the marketing year. So I would expect to see sales raised here in the WASDE report tomorrow.
Right. Certainly, one thing that goes into that equation is that production out of South America, like you were saying. In March, we saw the USDA peg Brazilian soybean production at 68.5 million metric tons. We've seen private analysts and government agencies come out lower than that since that report was issued. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that figure in tomorrow's morning report. We'll be breaking down those numbers early on in the morning. Thanks a lot for joining us here on GrainTV for Monday morning. Have a great rest of your day.